watching the meta develop over the next 2 weeks is important because it's developing faster than it's ever been developed in the history of Pokemon. Yo, welcome to Faded Town, number one Pokemon podcast in the world. These are facts. Look them up in a book, Google them, Pokestats them. Do what you gotta do, you know. Go to your local library, walk inside, talk to the lady at the counter, be like, yo, looking for the number one Pokemon podcast. She just points you right to Faded Town. That's just facts. That's just how it works. Haters are gonna hate. We leave for 6 months and we still on top. It just is what it is. And we'll always be there, alright? I will die saying we're the number one Pokemon podcast in the world, boys. Anyways, make sure you like, subscribe, do all the cool stuff down below. Yeah, I mean, a little more engagement would be nice. I appreciate everyone who hit the subscribe button recently. Make sure if you go down, if you look down and you're not subscribed, just hit the button. Doesn't take much more. Most people watch this are not subscribed. It tells me. So like, if you're gonna watch it, at least subscribe. You know, audio only versions are always up on Spotify, iTunes, wherever. Links all down below. Hoodies. If you're watching this, there's like 1 day left. So DM me on Twitter or Facebook. Links down below on that. $40 for if you're gonna pick it up in Salt Lake. 45 shipped anywhere in the US. So just message me. You got one last day basically to do that. So hit me up before you can. You know. Anyways, I kind of want to just get into this. I'm gonna start trying to do a solo, maybe, or I mean, just try to do at least two podcasts a week. We just had pre-order wrap up yesterday or on Sunday. I'm not gonna like dive into it. I think me and Rahul will dive super into like what happened at Peoria on Thursday. But I really like on this podcast. I want to dive into meta development and how we're in a new era of Pokemon. I think the meta develops so much quicker than I think it has ever developed in the past. And a lot of this has to do with the limitless online tournaments. I think it's actually super nutty. If we just look at, or we just talk about how often tournaments happen, how compared to the past. I mean, if we look back to before pandemic, what did we like 2019, 2018, the type of resources that we had going into tournaments were very limited. Limitless TCG was literally just like a results page, you know, like, alright, what did well, or what happened at the pass region? We had a few YouTube channels that made some. I think we had Pablo, who made content. Celio just like barely started up. Mahone didn't really make content back then. Azul didn't make content back then. We lost Puka, who was making content. We lost him. We didn't have much. I think like Pablo is the only one that was like consistently streaming too at that point. We had like Mellow Swellow. A lot of fun YouTube channels, a lot of fun decks. Obviously, when it comes to making content online, you want to be entertaining, you want to draw an audience. So there wasn't a lot When it came to like podcasts and stuff, we had Super Rodcast, and that went away. After that, competitive TCG wise, I think we didn't really have anything. Like Faded Town became a thing and became pretty popular. I think I hit an aspect that we didn't have. I was interviewing top players every week. So, and then I stopped doing it. So that kind of died off. And I'm just not, I wasn't consistent. I haven't been consistent. I'm not going to agree. I'm not going to say I'm going to be consistent. But, like, the resources just weren't there. But now we look at today. We have Azul, who's putting out content every day. He's streaming. We have Mahone that's putting out content every day. We have Celio putting out content every day. All these people stream. Pablo's still streaming, putting out content. Coaching has become like a revenue source for a lot of top players. Before there wasn't a lot of coaching. There wasn't, and it just wasn't there. We didn't use Twitter. Like we used like Hey Fonte on Facebook and Burbank, which those are still active. Seem pretty toxic. Twitter's super toxic too, but we're not really talking about that. But we didn't really use Twitter. We all kind of went to Twitter because Russell took down Hey Fonte for like a minute, or however long he took Hey Fonte down, and then we all just jumped ship to Twitter. I think Twitter kind of opened up like a lot. As a platform, more personalities, more streamlined to people you want to follow instead of just being in a group of people and you have to see what they post. You don't have to follow people on Twitter, which is nice. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of stuff. You just got like, oh, I did good at a cup, and I post my list on Burbank or Hey Fonte. It's just not the same. Now we get tons of content from great players. Azul and Chip have a great podcast. I personally, I think if you're chasing an invite or want to be very competitive, taking in all this information, all this content is very beneficial. Even if you don't like the person or you don't agree with what they say, taking in the info is just good. Like having a little more knowledge on something is great. The people that are making content are putting a lot of time and effort into doing so, and they're trying to put out the best content they can have. Like currently, I'm playing Pokemon insane amounts. I'm watching all the content. I'm pulling in everything. Like the effort I'm putting into the game right now is probably an all-time high. After my poor performance in Baltimore, so it's just even if you're trying to do something, trying to win, trying to get better at the game, taking in content from everyone is just the way to go. And I think that's why I link everybody's stuff down below. I think I have like Azul stuff, Celio's, Pablo's, Rahul's. I have everyone's stuff always linked down below because like my channel is all about trying to get you better at the game. And I think having access to all those resources just right below every of my videos is nice. But as I said, things have changed so much over the years. Like the resources have grown huge, like ridiculously huge, and they went to a whole new level when we started doing online events with Limitless. And when it was first thought, just to be kind of a joke, just something for us to do during the pandemic, It's like there was no events, there was nothing going on, Like, what can we do? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, how do we keep the game from not dying? And then the boys at Limitless throw out this whole system on how to run online events. And like, we thought it was fun. We made content on like, do these online events really matter? Are people taking it serious? This and that and blah blah blah. We're getting 600, 700 people playing on an online tournament. These are like higher than regional numbers. And these are weekly, daily. There's like 2 or 3 tournaments a day. And like these resources are just abundant. And I don't think we're used to it. Like I touched on it going into Peoria. I was like, the meta, you can see the meta development pretty crazy just in the thought of the Lost Zone engine, where you have the Empoleon versus the Lost Zone engine. I think in 2019, 2018, people played the one Empoleon and kind of, or 1 or 2 Empoleon, maybe 1 or 2 Empoleon, and find success. I think they find success in that because there isn't enough data gathered by players that are like to counter that. Like the thought process is, okay, someone's gonna play an Empoleon probably, as much as like that's like the limits of it, you know. It's like, okay, Empoleon's probably, I need to get around Empoleon, so like I'll play like a rope or whatever, you know. But without the information out there, as much as it was, I feel like that might not even happen. I think we go into it and the meta develops through Peoria, where we find out that Empoleon does really well against the Lost Engine decks. I think that it changes the whole thing. I think we find out that the Empoleon would have done really well versus the Lost Engine decks. And then we get a slow development into, alright, we're going to play, going into Salt Lake, we're going to figure out how to beat, we're going to play the Lost Engine, but we're going to beat Empoleon now. And we're going to, so I think a 2 Empoleon list would have won Peoria in 2017, 2018. Or 2019, whatever. I think a 2 Empoleon list wins that. Then we go into Salt Lake, and I think we get a development at that point to where we get a 4 Path to the Peak list, like Toys, or we get like a bunch of escape routes list, and like it beats the 1 Empoleon, you know. And then we move on to the next meta, which is a little different now because Salt Lake's really the last time for this format, so like we get a whole nother set. But in past we'd go to another regional, and then we would see the 4 Path to the Peak list like tour paths, and it would take like 3 regionals to get to that list. And I think with the Limitless we see it exponentially faster. Like the online play is at its highest. I think back in the day people didn't even play online. It was like a joke. People were like, it's bad testing, it doesn't work, like I don't even have my account, I share my account with 4 people, blah blah blah. I think people still share accounts, but like it wasn't thought of as a great testing method, and it wasn't like, it just wasn't taken serious. But I think we can see it in Peoria, where that list, and personally, last night after Toward 1, I played, the ladder's filled with Toward's list, right? That list is very good. It's very good, and it's not as hard as people were saying it is to play. I think people are finding a lot of success in the ladder with it. I had a lot of hard times beating it. It there's like it accounts for a lot. It accounts for a lot. It accounts for the Paracel because it plays 3 vacuums. It accounts for Empoleons, and with the switching cards or the ropes and the 4 paths of the peak. It covers the meta right now very well. I think even going, see, that's where that's. I was gonna say even going into Salt Lake, I think the deck is gonna be very good. But then I don't know the way the meta develops over such a short period. That's the question. That's the question I think we have to really think about as a player. Is that deck good enough? Or to just play raw going into Salt Lake? Or do you have to account for people learning to beat that deck with some tech cards or something? Which is, again, I played against it a lot last night, and it is hard to. There's not a lot it doesn't account for. It kind of covers its bases and it does what it wants to do every turn. I'm sure there's a few cards you can change, but it's very solid list. It's very 4 heavy list, very heavy on the resources it needs. It draws a lot of cards. It leaves you with large hands. And that's what we can see going forward is like we'll have 2 weeks of tournaments to see if people can figure out ways to limit that deck's hand size and try to cause it to break. And Empoleon's not going to do it. That's just not going. Empoleon's not going to work. So you have to find another way around it. 4 Path to the Peak is very strong. I think we learned that this weekend. I know Path to the Peak's been in the thing in the format a long time, but I've seen that a lot of tweets out about that. Like Path to the Peak's very strong. It's just a strong card. It just slows the game down. Like if it sticks, it's very tough for any deck that depends on it not sticking to develop, and losing a turn versus a 1 prize deck, it's very hard. It makes you almost lose most of the time. Every turn against a deck feels like you need to be taking a prize or developing your board. You need to be doing something. So if the Path to the Peak sticks and you do nothing a turn versus that deck, it's very tough. So these are all things that have to be accounted for going forward. And the question is basically, in these 2 weeks of online tournaments that we would have never had before, that we would have just had this PR regional, looked at Torch list, hopefully had your friend build that list and play against it and try to figure it out from there. Instead, we're going to have 2 weeks of people playing that list in tournaments. And everyone can look at the development of like, oh, this is winning tournaments, so it's beating Torch list. What's it doing? And let's look at it and take account of like what it has done to beat Torch list, and then people that want to play Torch list can adjust to that. So the question is like, is there something? Is it that simple? Is it that simple where it's going to develop in 2 weeks where that list will get better and adjust to the people that adjust to that list? Like it becomes a huge mind game, especially going into a tournament that should be a little more developed in the format. People should be Um, hap- or more likely to play newer stuff. I felt like in Peoria there was a lot of people that stayed in the RCS lanes and the Pokia lanes and stayed away from the Lost Engine. And the Lost Engine found a lot of success and it did very well. So I think people will be more likely to play that. And that list is very strong. The question is, what will happen? Will it be able to develop into? Is there something that will develop to beat that list, and will that list be able to adjust to beat that list? And it becomes like a 2 week meta development that if you're not staying on top of going into Salt Lake, you're not staying on top of the 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 micro meta development, I feel like you're doing yourself dirty. You're going to go into Salt Lake with a underdeveloped list. You're going to go in with a list that did well, but people have adjusted to that and you didn't adjust that. So you need to stay on top of stuff. You need to check limit lists like every day, see what's doing well, develop your list, play games against that. If you're not playing that list, which I'm not against anyone playing that list, I think that list is not super hard to play with. I don't feel like it's an Inteleon engine where you have to make a lot of decisions. Obviously, you're making a lot of micro decisions on what to pitch and stuff. But you're not getting like single cards, you're not developing like that. I think it's definitely hard to play, but it's not like insanely where like no one should pick that up and play it. I think pick that deck up, play it for like a week or so. I think you'll be fine. But you need to watch the meta. I think the meta needs to be watched with the micro changes throughout the week. There's terms every day you should watch it because I think we'll see another wave of like, okay, I'm adding this to beat that, and now this deck is adding this, and you just need to be on top of it because by the time Salt Lake comes, I don't think Tor's list will be good enough to win. Not his exact 60. Things need to change. People are going to change to beat that, and then you need to change to beat that. And we'll see it slowly develop, which is insane to think about, I think. The level of play that is happening right now is very much not... It's very much insane. Like, the development is at an all-time high. And to stay on top of stuff, or just... I mean, don't get me wrong, I think there can be a whole new thing that's out there, you know. But I think if you're not in like a tight knit group of like a lot of great players, and you guys aren't developing like a whole new deck or something, and you're just looking at the data raw and picking a deck from there and testing it on your own or like with a couple friends or whatever, I think staying on top of it and just watching the meta develop over 2 weeks and building a list is the best way to go. I'm sure the meta is going to be more developed going into Salt Lake. People will come up with like crazier stuff. There might be new decks, new engines, new forms of stuff. You can't really account for that unless it does show up on Limitless, which you should be on top of. You know what I'm saying? If it does show up on Limitless, there's something you can look into, you know? But if it's a hidden deck and this other, we really just can't. You don't want to really think about that. You know, you want to just take the data as it is. And there's so many resources. Take everything in, develop something, play it, and do your best. But overall, I think this podcast I just want to highlight of like how quickly the meta can develop compared to the past. I think in the past it'll take 2-3 regionals to get to where Tor's list is. And I don't think that's talked about enough. I think it's crazy. I think that list was super cracked. the 4 cross switchers, the three vacuums, the 4 path to the peak. I think that's like, that just says Empoleon sucks. It says the Parasol doesn't work. It says any counter to me, I've already accounted for. Instead of like watching a tournament develop and go, oh man, these beat me. I'm gonna, next tournament I'll play it. That's already happened. It's already happened. It's online. There was a bunch of games played. These cards were very well against me. Tor shut them down. And we're gonna see that in the next 2 weeks on how we beat Tor's list, and then how that list develops into beating those counters. And maybe the Parasol does start working again. It's a very weird situation. So you have to be on top of and watch develop. Because like, you could think like, oh, going into Salt Lake, the Umbrella's useless. Like, that people are gonna play the 3 vacuums, you know? But someone might develop like, oh, they're playing 3 vacuums, I'm not even gonna play tools, I'm gonna play a bunch of healing cards or something, you know? And then they might ditch the vacuums and like, oh, I'm gonna play this that stops the healing or whatever. And then the Parasol becomes good again, you know? And it's very like tedious. And I think if you don't sit and develop it and watch it develop, you're gonna get left behind. If you're gonna, I don't think you can take a list from Peoria and just plug and play anymore. I don't think the plug and play method works anymore to do well out of the tournament anymore. I think the community is very on top of stuff now. Like 600 people play on the online tournaments. We have over 1,000 players at both of the last regionals. People are invested in the game. People are watching. People are doing stuff. Like, you're gonna get left behind if you don't pay attention to what's happening on Limitless. Limitless, like, if you're going to Salt Lake, you need to be checking Limitless every day. That's what, at the least thing you should do is check Limitless every day. Go to Limitless, play, look at completed tournaments, look at, obviously take account for how many people are in it in each tournament, what happened. Obviously, it's like a 10-man tournament and fucking Dunsparce won or whatever. Like, obviously, take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, a 600-man tournament. Tor's list came in second. It lost to this because it played X cards that just beat that. Okay, now I'm playing X deck. If I put X cards in it, can I beat Tor's list? You practice that, blah, blah, blah. And then you see the next day, oh, someone played Tor list, but they took out the vacuums and they put these in to stop X card. Now it wins. And now we're in a fucking battle going into Salt Lake, which is crazy. I don't think a lot of people realize what's happening in the Pokemon game. It's very it's very overthinking, and like we were talking about kind of stuff like that in a group chat, and at the end of the day, sometimes I'm like, you can get caught up in that and just overthink your deck and just make a very shitty deck selection. So like, as much as I'm preaching, like, stay on top of it like that, sometimes you can overthink stuff. And I still think you should stick with your guns, which you practice a long time. So if you just sat and practiced Dialga for the last 4 weeks, I think you still play Dialga, but it's just, I just want to give you the information that's out there for you to make the best choice. I mean, in the discussion we had, like, when I played Blastoise and I did my best, that deck was, like, I wasn't in a great mindset. I didn't play test a lot. I built that deck basically in a discussion on a bar at the event the night before at like 4 a.m. And like sometimes you get into a juices flowing head state, and I think you should run with that. If you ever get into like a because you can get definitely caught up in the limitless like meta fucking shifting thing and just like go crazy, you know. So sometimes it's not a horrible thing to just take a step back and think about stuff and get into a different headspace and build a deck and like run with it. And I think that happens more with someone that's like doesn't have anything to lose or doesn't care too much or just wants to have fun. Not like just wants to have fun, but like someone that didn't test a lot, you know. Like I think if I don't recommend like just like winging it or like getting into a juices flowing set or head mind and just building something that you think will work if you've been practicing for the last 2 weeks. If you've been practicing a deck for the last 2 weeks and you're just, I know it can get stressful, but like don't just stick with that. But if you're like kind of winging it, which don't like that happens, like it happens to the best of us, and you can still do well. Like if you just wing it and you're gonna not keep up with the meta and stuff and just kind of build something, get in a juices flow head state and just build something, and sometimes it just works out, you know. That's definitely a possibility. But I just want to get everyone the opportunity to do it. And I think staying on top of Limitless, if you are practicing every day and you want to do well, watching the meta develop over the next 2 weeks is important. Because it's developing faster than it's ever been developed in the history of Pokemon. There's so much more resources, there's so much more stuff. And I've touched on that a lot, and I think that's kind of where I want to sit on this. I want everyone to do the best they can. That's why I link everything down below. That's why I do this every week. A lot of us don't travel to every regional. A lot of us go to 1 or 2 regionals a year and want to have fun. And some people are just crazy and they want to do the best and they want to watch the thing develop. But I just want that information out there. I want people to think about it. The meta's developing faster than it's ever developed ever. And if you're not paying attention to Limitless and you're not paying attention to this and you don't have a great testing crew and you're not developing a whole new strategy or deck, the best option is to watch the development on Limitless, adjust accordingly, and put yourself in the best position possible to do well at the turn. Plug and play is not going to work going forward. I just don't think so. I don't believe plug and play is going to work going forward. And, well, like, you can play, yes. Will you win? I don't think so. I think at that point, I think you should just juice this. If you're just going to pick up towards 60 and try to play, I think you should juice the flow and come up with your own deck at that point. Or the meta, or it doesn't develop, and Torg List is just that good. Like, people can't figure out a way to beat it. You watch for 2 weeks, and that 60 is solid. Like, I could see that. Playing against that the last night, and that 60 feels super solid. It covers a lot. So, that could happen. And then the plug and play just kind of works on default because the meta didn't develop. There was nothing to develop. The deck was just solid. So, like, that's just, like, on an off rip that deck is just that good. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think we'll see a development. So I don't believe the plug and play will work anymore. That's kind of all I wanted to. I kind of want to touch. I think it's not talked about a lot. Everyone should that wants to do well at tournaments. I think taking all the resources that are possible. I know articles aren't very good anymore. Like, Channel Fireball does articles. A lot of them are kind of gimmicky, like pet deck articles. You can only do so much, you know. But there's a lot of resources, a lot of podcasts now. There's like 4 or 5 TCG podcasts now, so I would listen to them. They all have great guests on it. Go on Twitter, follow all the best players, see what they're talking about, and watch Limitless every day. That's all I gotta say. Just watch Limitless every day, watch it develop, and then play every day. Play the game every day. Understand your deck through and through, and I think you'll do well. I kind of want to just leave you with that. Watch the meta develop over the next 2 weeks and adjust accordingly. I think it's your best chance to do well going into Salt Lake. Me and Rahul will break down PR regionals on Thursday. Again, hoodies on sale. Pre-order. You got 1 day, so message me. Hit the like, subscribe button down below. If you're still watching this, I appreciate you guys. Like, comment down below. I reply to everything. I think I pretty much covered everything I want. Meta is developing insanely now, so stay on top of it. But for now, guys, we're gonna scoop it up.